Welcome to the Xavion Factor, where I share my world with you through extraordinary eyes. I'm the host that puts the Xavion in the Xavion Factor. My name's Xavion. What's up, everybody? Hey, I'm back. It's been a couple of weeks. I had some time off and decided to actually take some time off and rest up a bit. You know, you can't fully rest when you have 4 kids, but I tried to do as much as I could. Actually got to do some things that I've been wanting to do for a while. I got to play a lot of video games. Definitely enjoyed that, but it just never feels like it's enough time. I'm the type of video game player where I like to play like games that either you can play in like an hour, 30 minutes, like a sports game like Madden, or when I really get time, like I have to sort of play straight through, and I like playing these long adventure games. So like things like Final Fantasy, these story adventure games, Spider-Man, the Batman games, The Last of Us. That's actually what I played during my time off. I had a week off from work, and I just spent most of the day finishing or playing The Last of Us 2 from start to finish because I wanted to be prepared when the second season comes. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I played The Last of Us at the beginning of the year, just before the new season just before the series premiered of The Last of Us, just because I want to play the game prior to actually watching the show, which I'm glad I did. It's probably going to sound like really blasphemous to those people that live and die and thrive on prestige television, but I actually preferred the game to the series. You just get more enjoyment out of it. Like the series is good. I just don't think I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the game. And series is pretty faithful to the game. In fact, like there's so many things that are like shot for shot exactly what happened in the game, especially in that last episode. But overall, I just think I got more enjoyment out of playing the game. Like actually, it's basically like watching the show, but being in the show, if that makes sense. So it just makes it that much better. I will say the one thing that kind of, I don't know if it disappointed me, but for as much trouble as those dang on zombies or infected were in the game, they barely showed up in the show. They were almost a non-factor in the show, which is understandable. Like people are always, going to be more dangerous in those situations, but it is what it is. So I did get to play The Last of Us Part 2. Got to play that all the way through last week and finished that. Thoughts on it? I think it's a good story. I think it is much longer than the first game. We'll start off with that. I kept, there kept being points in the game where I was like, okay, this is the end. Or I'm close to the end, and then only to realize, like, no, I'm nowhere near the end. And I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything, but, some huge things. I text my wife when I started playing it, like maybe 30 minutes into playing it. And 30 minutes, we'll say, let's say within the story time, we'll say it was like 5 minutes into story time. It's like stuff just popped off, and I'm like, okay, this is crazy already. And so within that, I just got, that first sort of beginning of the story kind of gets you hooked on, okay, what's going to happen next? How's this going to go? And I don't think it's given up too much to say that there's a new character that sort of gets introduced in part 2 that becomes a really big character as part of the game. So you have like different sort of viewpoints, story points that takes place. So you sort of get this sort of time period that takes place from 2 or a few different views. And then it's just, it's interesting. So it's sort of like you play the same time period twice. And I could definitely see how they could extend the game of part two into two seasons for the show. We'll see how they decide to do it, but I definitely think they could do two. I think three would be too much. I have a perfect idea that I don't want to say right now. For those that haven't played the game and are intending to watch the show, I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything for that, but maybe I will do a spoiler review of the game later on. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that. I spent a lot of time over the last few weeks. It was probably, I don't know, 30, 40 hours out now. Not 2 weeks, but basically a week. I started playing it maybe Tuesday, I think, or Monday evening, and then finished it Friday night. So pretty good. 1 week worth of gameplay that I played there. It's obviously taking breaks to kind of take care of my family, but I enjoyed it. I think like as far as it being as good as the first game, it was story-wise, it was very appealing and intriguing. I do think that maybe it felt a little bit long, and the ending was. I just didn't care for the ending as much. Not that it was a bad ending, but it just kind of left me wanting more, sort of. And not like in a wanting more, like, oh my gosh, that was so good, wanting more, but I was like, that could have been handled a little bit better. But to each his own. Obviously, everything is subjective when it comes to tastes and opinions and whatnot. But I did enjoy it. I think it is worth. I'm excited to see how they adapt it into the television show. So a lot's happened over the last couple of weeks while I was sort of taking a break. And I'll start with talking about reminding a flashback to our last episode where I was talking about my idea for how to revive the sort of superhero genre based on just what the sentiment was. And I gotta say, first and foremost, living in this day and age, and I think I mentioned it last week, it's pretty cool for a guy that sort of loves the science fiction, superhero, fantasy type of world. Because we're getting a lot of content, and a lot of the news that came out this week is about all of that content and whatnot. So I'll talk about that. But circling back to last episode, I talked about the possibility or idea of a DC and Marvel crossover cinematically. And when I talked about it, it was sort of just an idea I had in my head. There's a thought, as I've actually had it for a while. And then what was crazy is that the following week after I uploaded that episode, the following week, James Gunn had actually done an article, or not an article, but an interview, and talked to someone, or was it on Twitter? I can't remember, but I know I read it on Twitter, but I think he was actually mentioning it in an article or interview to someone, but where he said that he and Kevin actually talked to Marvel about doing a crossover, but right now he wanted to focus on actually putting together his universe, which makes sense. But I was just excited that, okay, it is a possibility. Everything I said in my episode was actually legit without me even knowing that he had already had those conversations. And I said James Gunn was a huge reason of why I think it could very well happen, and that seems to be the case. So hopefully eventually we will get that. It'll probably be a long way off from now, especially as James is looking to sort of ramp up his storyline with what he's trying to do within the DCU. So more to come on that. So as I said, yeah, there's been a lot of news. As I said, I'm excited for all of the content that we're able to get these days. We didn't used to always get this. There was long periods of time where, Star Wars was gone from, what was it, 1982 or 83 all the way up until 1999. You had sort of this drought. And then you had the sequel or the prequel trilogy. And then you had another long drought for maybe about 15, 20 years. It was about 15 years. when Rise of Skywalker, or sorry, not Rise of Skywalker, but the Force Awakens came out, and we weren't getting much, content. And so, there was that long drought of Star Wars, with DC, Marvel. There were almost no Marvel movies outside of the X-Men throughout the 90s. I think the first X-Men even came out in 2000. And then, early 2000s, you had, small makings. You'd get a superhero movie every now and then. It was, and they weren't really good quality. But then, the MCU sort of uh, developed in 2008 and took off. And then you had DC, which really was, for the most part, Batman. You had Superman sprinkled in here and there, but for the most part, cinematically, DC movies were Batman. And then maybe like something from a Wildstorm imprint, stuff that you didn't even know was a part of DC Comics or something like that. I'm talking like stuff like Watchmen. I know it was really big and popular, but a lot of the people didn't know that, or exactly know that, oh, this is based on a DC Comics property or whatnot. So all of that to say, like, we're just living in a day and age that I'm happy we get new great content, and I'm going to talk about sort of the news and stuff that's come out around that. So we'll start with, I guess, the DC news. So we finally got a trailer for the Blue Beetle, and I'm not going to do a full trailer breakdown, but I will talk about the trailer just in a high level review. So first thing I want to say is that this trailer, I had sort of mixed feelings on this trailer. I don't think there was anything that really sort of moved the needle too much to make me say, hey, I like this. As far as trailers go, it was pretty bland for me. Not to say that I think it's going to be a bad movie or anything. I just thought, it just didn't do much to impress me. I thought the Scarab and the Blue Beetle costume looked great. The visual effects of it. They in the trailer they do show the transformation of Jaime into the Blue Beetle, so that's great. I did see a couple of nods to the first two Blue Beetles in there. I saw costumes in the trailer, so that's interesting. I wonder if they're actually going to show Ted Kord in there. It looks like there may not, because it looks like I don't know. There's a character so in the movie that sort of takes on that scientist role that maybe I thought Ted Kord might have, but it looks like it might be a love interest, or I don't know if it was a family member. I don't think I really understood the dynamic. Speaking of family, I think there's a lot of family elements in this movie that kind of it really feels like it's a family movie. Honestly, it feels like the production look and feel, like the cinematography and the color grading and everything kind of makes the movie, and this is going to sound bad, but it sort of reminded me of a made-for-TV movie or show, like a Disney Channel movie, like just the way it looked, the way it was shot. It felt like that, just looking at the trailer. That's sort of interesting. I have to see if that sort of goes away. I do like some of the things they were doing with the Blue Beetle, sort of like the making it really more seem like a teenage kid had this superpower thrust upon him, sort of what they were trying to do with Shazam, but Zachary Levi kind of played it too childlike. But this feels like it's more akin to what a teenager, 16, 17-year-old would do. Some of the stuff that we saw kind of Jaime doing in the trailer, like making the samurai swords and sort of doing the karate. Just you see all the inspirations from Jaime and what he's sort of wanting to do. Overall, I thought it was like I said, a okay trailer. It did the thing that these trailers usually do, this sort of the formulaic thing at the end where they throw in this little joke meant to laugh after you get the title sequence. I think Jaime says something about the bat as like a cave, like being like a bat cave, and then George Lopez's character, I think, is playing like a crazy uncle type character. shouts out Batman's a fascist. And that made people go crazy online, made people lose their minds. It's those types that the sort of super diehard, um, hardcore Snyder fans that hate everything that is DC, but not Snyder. They were losing their minds. So it makes me just want to type every day that Batman's a fascist. Yeah, Batman's one of my favorite characters, and the line didn't bother me at all. I don't expect everyone to love Batman, especially people living in that world. But who knows? These people just they're going to be mad at everything until Zack Snyder comes back and takes over and does anything or does everything with the series, which I don't think that's happening at all anytime soon. I'm just saying I think that's the only thing that they would be satisfied with. But who knows? I'm not going to spend any more breath on them. The next thing that sort of we also got some news coming out about the casting for Creature Commandos. So James Gunn did release a casting list of Creature Commandos, and so it was pretty. Right before the casting, kind of got there was like a hint of some news coming. And that news was some news where Frank Grillo had been mentioning how was glad to be a part of the DCU, and he was sort of downplaying his role as Crossbones in the MCU. More so, like, sounded really bitter about like how he didn't feel like Crossbones was used well enough in the MCU. But so that was sort of the first hint that, okay, Frank Grillo is getting a role in one of these DCU projects. And then shortly it came out that he was actually going to be cast in Creature Commandos. So he'll be playing Rick Flag Sr. So if you remember, I talked about this when James Gunn announced his DC slate, or at least part of his DC slate. One of the properties was Creature Commandos, and I said there was a Rick Flag looking character, looked like an older Rick Flag. Well, it's because it is an older Rick Flag. It is Rick Flag Sr. So Frank Grillo will be playing that character. He'll be playing him in. He'll be playing his voice in the animated series of Creature Commandos. But as James Gunn mentioned, these characters will also appear in live action, or if they do appear in live action, it'll be the same actor playing them. So if they're playing their voice, they're playing them in live action. So there's two things that you'd have to do when doing that. That being said, he announced the whole of the characters that will be in. Not the whole cast, but the whole main cast of Creature Commandos. So as I mentioned, Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. The other one that was pretty obvious choice, well, maybe it was obvious to me, but it felt like it was not as obvious to other people. But David Harbour is going to be playing Frankenstein character, which I almost could have bet money on that he would be the one to play Frankenstein, because one, I think he just would have the voice, and two, have the stature to play a Frankenstein character. I think a lot of people were looking at Frankenstein being played by I'm about to do the thing where I blank on names again. Tall guy. He's played Hellboy. Gosh, why can't I remember his name? Anyway, people thought that he was going to be playing Frankenstein, which I can see it. They both played Hellboy. They do have similar statures, and I think if this was maybe 15, 20 years ago, yeah, he would have been perfect for Frankenstein. But I think the fact that you want to play in live action, and this is going to be for a few years, Harbour is a great casting for him. So Ron Perlman, that's what I'm talking about. Ron Perlman is his name. Sorry, Get lost there. But yeah, Ron Perlman is the character or the actor that everyone thought would be playing Frankenstein. And like I said, like maybe if this was 15, 20 years ago, he would have been perfect. But I think that David Harbour is makes the most sense nowadays. So filling out the rest of the cast, we have Maria Bakalova, who will be playing Alana Rostovic. Indira Varma, who will be playing the bride. I think that is actually a great casting. I think she has the look and sound for the bride. Zoe Shao will be playing Nina Mazursky. I'm not sure who that character is. Alan Tudyk will be playing Dr. Phosphorus. And then Sean Gunn, who is James Gunn's brother, will have two roles. So he'll be playing the voice of G.I. Robot and voice and sound of Weasel, I guess. I think he'll be playing like the body, a double Weasel. We actually saw Weasel in the Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad. Yeah, the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn produced. We thought he died, but I think there was a post credits or at least a end of the movie showing where he actually survived. So it looks like he survives to become a member of the Creature Commandos. So it's a really good casting. I think those are excellent castings and a good start to the DCU. So no date yet on when that would be premiering. So we'll keep an eye out for that. The other bit of news coming out of DC, it's actually fresh off of the press, is that looks like James Gunn's done writing the Superman Legacy script. Looks like he's finished. He mentioned that they're going to start going into pre-production work, which includes like costumes, scenery, pre-production stuff like set design and things like that. This as he's finishing up the Guardians of the Galaxy press tour, making the rounds. That movie is coming out in just a few short weeks. So sort of right on time for this. So James Gunn is going to be have no downtime, it seems like. But this is excellent, great news. So we should be hearing a casting soon. I'll bet that we're getting a casting at Comic-Con. I'm almost 98% sure that we're going to get the casting at Comic-Con. Which reminds me of a tweet that someone tweeted out earlier. It's some Snyder fan jerk who was obsessed with James Gunn about how there's like so much like James Gunn is what did he say? James Gunn is so insecure because he said he was willing to bet that James Gunn is going to announce the Superman actor during Zack Snyder's Justice Con, or is it Justice Con, or is that whatever, Snyder Con, that will be taking place, that full circle event that will be taking place next week. So I can almost 100% guarantee that it's not going to be announced then. But we'll see. He may be right. If he's right, I'll go ahead and apologize for what I said, because I told him that he seemed like the insecure one, like because he kept trying to say that James Gunn is trying to show up Zack Snyder and try to take the news off Zack Snyder and blah 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 blah. And I don't know what makes him think that. Snyder has said repeatedly, James has said repeatedly, they're sort of good friends, if not just close associates and whatnot. I don't think there's any animosity between the two. But hey, who knows? That being said, I think that's all for the DC news that I can think of right now. So we got Blue Beetle trailer, Creature Commandos, and Superman Legacy is starting its pre-production. Let's move on to some stuff that's happened in Marvel recently. So we did get another trailer, a couple of trailers actually. The first is the Marvels trailer. We finally got the trailer for the new sort of sequel to Captain Marvel, and I guess it's a sequel to a couple of different series things: Captain Marvel, WandaVision, and Miss Marvel. So this features obviously Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. You have Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau, aka I think they're gonna go with Spectrum possibly full time, but I think they're actually going to go Spectrum. And then Iman Vellani's Miss Marvel. I just have to say, I do love Iman Vellani. She is a treasure and should be upheld. She's a geek and a dork, and and I say that in the most wonderful, loving ways. I love her casting as Miss Marvel, or Kamala Khan. I do think that her show. I think her show is underrated. Like, I honestly, it's one of my favorite of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. It's one of the top for me. I really liked that show, enjoyed it. Although the power set was different than how it is in the comics, I thought they did a good job of sort of at least trying to give the essence of the character's power set in it. But that was pretty cool. So it looks like the premise of the movie is going to be about these three characters switching bodies or switching places. Not switching bodies. Switching bodies sounds like their brain moves into the other's body, but really their characters sort of switch place. So wherever, if Carol and Miss Marvel use their powers at the same time, they will switch places with where they are in position in a universe. So like if Carol's at one end of the galaxy and Kamala is at the other end. They'll end up switching places, and the same thing with Monica. So you actually kind of see a bit of that in the trailer, as it looks like there's like a training montage where they're training against each other and switching powers and learning how to switch powers, or not switch powers, but switch places at will or on command, which is pretty cool. You don't get, it's not really a story trailer, so you're not seeing much of what's going on within the story. But you do get to see, these three characters interact, and how where they're going to be within the universe. I think we did get a couple scenes of some other Marvel characters, so it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, the trailer doesn't give much away about what they're truly fighting against, or what the plot of the story is. So we'll have to wait to see that. Overall, this is another one that I don't think really moved the needle for me. I was already excited to see it just because of Spectrum and Miss Marvel. Not that I don't like Brie Larson as Miss Marvel. I just I was so down on the first movie just because I just felt like it didn't really have sort of a challenge within the movie. It just felt like everything was way too easy. I don't really feel like Miss Marvel really, or not Miss Marvel, but Captain Marvel really overcame anything. Like, I know they tried to put the theme in there of she was doubted all her life, and maybe like women aren't strong, and people were looking down on her, but it just doesn't feel like she ever felt that way throughout the entire movie. It felt like she very much felt like she knew she was sort of this top sort of badass in the in the galaxy. I just don't feel like that. I just don't feel like story wise that it was that strong of a character growth or development within the movie. Really loved Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, and then Miss Marvel. So I'm excited to see those two characters. We'll see. Hopefully, we get another trailer later on. The movie got pushed. It was supposed to come out this summer, but it's got moved to later in the year. I can't remember. I think it's November. Yeah, they got moved to. So it's going to be a while before we see that movie. The other trailer we got was a Secret Invasion trailer. This trailer I actually really did like. It was pretty cool. It's like one of those, it's a sort of old school phase one type Marvel stuff. It felt like it was much more like a Winter Soldier type feel and vibe to it. It's like a spy espionage sort of thriller. It's like, I think this has the potential to be the Andor for the Marvel shows. And I say that without having fully watched Andor, but I see the praise that Andor has been getting and sort of the vibe that everyone feels with Andor, and I can understand. And it just makes me think that this Secret Wars should be, or Secret Invasion, sorry, not Secret Wars. Secret Wars is something separate, but it makes me feel like that should be that could be on that level, and people will praise it for that. It looks very sort of grounded as a movie about shape shifting characters could be. But for the most part, I think this is going to be a surprise hit, and this comes out pretty soon. We're gonna I think June actually. So this is gonna be a big June that we're gonna have like the Flash and between the Flash and Spider Man and I think Spider Man. I can't remember. I think Spider Man is coming out that month. And then the Secret Invasion. You know, we're gonna have a lot of good content that's coming out this summer. Um, Speaking of Spider Man, we also did get a trailer for the new Spider Verse movie, Across the Spider Verse. This one was more so of a story trailer, and there was some good elements in it. I mean, obviously, I was sold from the moment they said that they're going to end up making a sequel to Into the Spider Verse, because Spider Verse, the first Spider Verse movie, was so amazing and awesome, and I've watched it so many times, and I'm happy to see it and enjoy it, and that they're getting a sequel. This one does sound like it's very much sticking with the multiverse sort of theme that's been going on across these superhero movies lately, which probably, I guess you could say, started with Into the Spider-Verse. And like this trailer is loaded with Easter eggs for Spider-Man fans. And if you haven't seen the trailer and don't want any spoilers from the trailer, you probably want to skip past to the next topic here. Just look in the at your thing and go ahead and skip to the next chapter. But there are some, you see all these different Spider characters. Obviously, I think from the first trailer, you saw Spider-Man Unlimited, which is one of my favorite characters from the short-lived TV series. You have obviously the main, sort of one of the big characters in it is going to be the Spider-Man 2099 character, and some references to the MCU Spider-Man when he says something like along the lines of, "Don't get me started on Doctor Strange and that dork from Earth 1999." And which is a reference to what the Marvel Cinematic Universe's designation was originally. And I'm just gonna go off on a side mini rant. So everyone keeps saying, "Oh, Marvel Cinematic Universe is Earth 616," which to me is stupid, dumb. That the whole point of the whole multiverse and having these Earth designations and blah 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 is that each one is its own one. So I know they've made two references to it being Earth 616, and I think they're trying really hard to make that happen, but I don't agree with it because Earth 616 is the original comic, the home universe for the comic books. And that is something that I think Aman Vellani and I do agree on. And I don't care what Kevin says. Kevin Feige doesn't control me. He's not the end all be all of everything Marvel. He just says what he wants to say about his Marvel Cinematic Universe, but at the end of the day, I disagree that it is Earth 616. It is Earth 1999. That being said, I'll move on. Perfect call to it is that we actually have a Earth 616 character that will be appearing within this Marvel Into the Spider-Verse. When you saw I'm assuming it was Ben Reilly Spider-Man, the Scarlet Spider. And I can tell it was from 616 because the art style was very much the comic book style. So the way they drew him and animated him. Looks very much like it was drawn or ripped from a comic book. So I'm excited to see that. Overall, this one did move the needle a little bit. I mean, very little because I was already going to see this movie, but it got me even more hyped for it. So I can't wait for this to come out. Very interested to see, how they continue Miles' story. It looks like there's something going on where Miles is going to have to make a big sacrifice choice between saving someone that he loves or letting the universe sort of go into peril or whatnot. It's amazing how they always have Spider-Man having to make these choices. So I think that there's one other piece of Marvel news. It's not such a happy bit of news, but uh, it does affect a large part of the MCU going forward. You had Jonathan Majors to Jonathan Majors was reportedly he was arrested as reportedly physically attacking his significant other, girlfriend. I don't fiance or I'm not sure. I don't think they're married, but it was reported that he was arrested. And that he had, physically assaulted her, choked her, hit her, something of that nature. And so, at first everyone was like sort of in disbelief and shock of the news. I was myself was kind of withholding judgment. I've learned that no one is beyond surprising me when it comes to, scum, to doing bad things, or I'll censor myself. Like I sort of got that when I was younger and found out Tiger Woods, like who this was supposed to be, this pristine, you know, clean, good guy type character, ended up was cheating on his wife and had that whole, 9 iron through the back of his SUV incident. From that point on, I was like, nope, not putting nothing past anybody. And so I was withholding judgment on Jonathan Majors because, I don't know all the facts or whatnot. Then it comes out that his lawyer is like, adamantly denying these charges or vehemently denying these charges that, this not happened. He's unequivocally innocent and we have proof and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, so maybe there is something to this. And then his lawyer, I don't know what they were thinking, puts out this text exchange of the alleged victim texting Jonathan Majors. And the text thread, it was one of those text threads that just did not make this seem like it was any better. Like, I don't like it's something like if I have no idea how his lawyer thought this was a a good thing. I mean, in the text thread, she is definitely saying things. She doesn't exactly say that, oh, you didn't hit me or he didn't hit her. It was more so like she was worried about getting him in trouble for having the police sort of show up. And it was more like she was trying to defend him from allegations versus actually saying that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the nature of the text message. You're not going to text someone saying like, oh, you didn't hit me. But it wasn't like she was saying, I told them you didn't hit me or hurt me or anything like that. She said weird stuff like, I told them it was my fault because I took your phone or something like that. Which sounds really bad and really sort of like she sounded really worried about his sort of character and well-being being put on trial, which was, I mean, obviously if you're emotionally attached to someone, that would be a concern of yours. But again, as I said, it just didn't feel like it was, and I could be completely wrong, it just didn't feel like it was a, hey, oh, this is a huge misunderstanding, like, oh no, I was never hit or attacked or anything like that. So it was just a thing that I just don't think made Jonathan Majors look any better, especially in the court of public opinion, because pretty much the same sentiment I saw all around Twitter was that, yeah, this did not change this might have made it worse. So we'll see how that ends up. But it was reported recently that his talent agency actually dropped him, and his managers dropped him. So that is not a good look at all. And it sounds like there may be some more trouble for Mr. Majors. This is really, it's really like unfortunate for the alleged victim, and for Majors himself. Like he was just a few weeks ago on Top of the World. He had like back to back number 1 movies, and then the next week he's being arrested. So um, you know I hope the situation gets cleared out. I hope the truth and justice prevails, no matter what the situation is. I hope that you know, um, the right thing happens. Um, that being said, let's move on to some lighter news. Talking about a Star Wars, so another franchise again. We got DC, we got Marvel, we got Star Wars content. It's a good time to be a geek. This couple of weeks ago was the Star Wars celebration event. We celebrate Star Wars. I don't know why, but for some reason, I just assumed this was going to be May the 4th. Because it's affectionately titled Star Wars Day, because May the 4th be with you. So I just assumed that was when Star Wars Celebration was taking place, so it kind of caught me off guard. But there was some huge news that came out of this. A lot of great content's coming up for Star Wars in the world of the Jedi and Star Wars. So we'll start with talking about the biggest thing is that there's going to be at least 3 new Star Wars movies that were announced. Not necessarily titles, but directors and sort of super high level concepts, or so to speak, because it wasn't really plot. But we'll start with the first being a James Mangold movie. So this will be directed by James Mangold, written and directed, I believe, by James Mangold. And it's supposed to take place on the timeline in the Old Republic, or is it the High Republic? I can't remember. But it's basically going to be long before Palpatine and Skywalkers. This is going to be set before then, and it will be helmed by James Mangold. The second announcement was a Dave Filoni led movie that sort of culminates all of the Mandalorian or Disney Plus shows, except for with the exception of Andor, but sort of that Dave Filoni Mandoverse thing. So the Mandalorian, I'm assuming Ahsoka, I'm assuming the Book of Boba Fett, and any other shows that would tie into that, which I guess ties into. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then finally, a new movie that is set after the sequel trilogy, 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, is a movie featuring the character of Rey, now known as Rey Skywalker, and that will be helmed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I think she was a showrunner or director for the Ms. Marvel series, which I already told you that I loved. So I'll be excited to see that movie. Hopefully, there's some Finn stuff going on in there. But I know John Boyega was sort of soured on the Star Wars thing. Hopefully, there could be some mending done there, because I would love to see Finn come back and actually sort of act on sort of those that force sensitivity supposedly that he was experiencing. That would be great. So yeah, that's big. Finally getting a new Star Wars movies after a couple of years of radio silence there. But the other thing that was released here is one of the things that I'm most excited for, without doubt, my favorite character in the Star Wars sort of lore, universe, world, is Ahsoka Tano. I don't know when it started, because I was a pretty big Luke Skywalker fan when I was a kid and watching and growing up, and kind of reason why I was sort of upset with the sequel trilogy because it just didn't feature enough Luke Skywalker for me. But I think Ahsoka sort of took the top place. Probably around the time that Clone Wars was airing, at least the last season of Clone Wars. I had watched all of the Clone Wars, and I just fell in love with Ahsoka. And then seeing her in The Mandalorian that second season was awesome. And, when they cast of Rosario Dawson, I was super happy and excited, and it just made me love her even more. Her as in Ahsoka. So I'm super excited for this Ahsoka series that's coming out. Looks like it's going to be a continuation of basically the Star Wars Rebels, which I haven't finished watching yet. I started, but I hadn't finished watching. But I'm very excited now to go back and watch that prior to Ahsoka coming out, which I believe is releasing this August. The trailer looks awesome. Ahsoka looks, like the greatness that she is. We have live action versions of several of the Rebels characters, including Sabine Wren. You have Syndulla. Ezra Bridger is going to be making an appearance, as well as the villain of the series, which would be Grand Admiral Thrawn, which I think might end up being the villain of the whole of the sort of that Mandoverse movie that I was talking about with Filoni. Just based on the last episode that I watched of Mandalorian, I think that's all culminating in that, or at least a team up of a couple of different villains there. Super excited about Ahsoka. I cannot wait. Yeah, she's definitely, without a doubt, my favorite Star Wars character. I don't care who likes it or who doesn't like it. Speaking of The Mandalorian, this season, I've been seeing it get a bad rap for this season. Mostly from people, those people that are sort of biggest, that that sort of kind of hate women. It seems like, they're upset that this is now the Bo-Katan show. Sorry. Yeah, and I again, one of the things I love, I've talked about this several times before. I love connected universes. One of the things I love seeing characters from one series, movie, show appearing in another. I just love having a connected world. It's the world building at its finest. To me, one of the things that I always disliked about the movies and comic book shows before is that they always seem so segregated and disconnected, and that you couldn't have a Superman show up in a Batman movie or a show or whatnot. With the cartoon it was a lot easier, they would do that, but now being able to do it in live action, you see characters from Rebels appearing in live action and show in Ahsoka. You see characters from the Clone Wars appearing in live action in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. And then, you see those characters from the sequel or prequel trilogy or the regular original trilogy appearing in the Book of Boba Fett, and vice versa. And it's just all great. I love connectivity. So being able to see someone like Bo-Katan have a huge part in The Mandalorian is awesome. I'm enjoying the season of Mandalorian. I know people were upset with you got Lizzo in an episode of Mandalorian. This is blasphemous or whatnot. I disagree. I love it. I'm enjoying it. And then especially this last episode that we watched here. This is the penultimate episode of this season, where you sort of saw the mechanizations and a little bit of the plans of oh my gosh, why am I blanking on every name today? The mechanizations of Moff Gideon. It was pretty cool, and he had a pretty cool sort of combination of a clone or a stormtrooper suit mixed with Mandalorian. It's pretty cool to see. Although he kind of disappeared at some point for some reason. I don't even know when that happened or why that happened. In that sort of battle at the end of that episode. All that to say, I'm super happy that we're getting, this content. So speaking of content, there was some more information on the new seasons of shows. So they put out a couple of teasers. You have a new season of The Bad Batch that's coming out. That will be coming out. So you have season 3 announcement of Bad Batch. You have Tales of the Jedi season 2. I think there was a teaser for that. The Acolyte, which I'm really excited about to see. There was a teaser for that. Didn't get to see any of these teasers, but I heard there's a lot of good stuff in there. You had Acolytes, a bunch of Jedis. You see Carrie Ann Moss. There's a Jedi in the Old Republic or High Republic. And then a series I didn't even know anything about. I may have heard about it before, but I may have forgotten all about it. But a series called Skeleton Crew, which will be featuring these children in the Star Wars universe, sort of stowing away on a ship or stealing a ship, something like that. I'm excited to see that actually. And then Star Wars Visions season 2 will be coming out as well. So that's a lot of content, a lot of stuff that's coming out, a lot of news that's happened over the last couple of weeks, and I'm here for it. Like I said, this is a great time. A couple other things I did do on my vacation. I did see a couple of movies that I'll maybe do some reviews on. Actually, I'll give a quick review on one of them. So I did see the Super Mario Brothers movie, and my overall review is that it's about like I give it like a 2.5 stars out of 5. I didn't think it was great. Maybe a 2.75. I enjoyed it a bit, but it was mostly sort of forgettable. Like the really this goes back to sort of what I talked about in one of my first episodes, which was that fan service sort of thing having a heavy weight. I think if this fan service wasn't there for this movie, like sort of seeing some of the stuff that you grew up playing in Mario, you the firepower, the star, the boxes, popping the boxes, getting a mushroom and things, I would not really think this movie was all that great. I mean, I don't know. It's making bank. It's like killing the box office right now. I think they're up to $500 million already in just 2 weekends, which is pretty amazing for this movie. And Illumination just knows how to sort of get money because they're making money off the Minions movies, which I have not seen one of those that I have enjoyed. So I think it's just maybe something about Illumination that sort of escapes me. I don't think it was a bad movie or like it's entertaining, I guess. I wasn't laughing that hard. It's really supposed to be like a family movie. Although I would caution that it's not, it's a, if you're going to take your children to see it, like, hopefully they're okay with, know the difference of, or know not to say certain things, because there's a lot of, like one of the first lines in the movie is "come out or die" or something like that, and there's a lot of kill this person and death that, and you're gonna die or something like that. So it's a lot of that. So I would say like just parental guidance if you're gonna take your kids to see it. Other than that, though, I think it was all right. Like I think kids would enjoy it. I mean, obviously somebody's enjoying it for $500 million. But for the most part, for me, it was pretty okay. Like I said, it's like the nostalgia sort of stuff kind of kept me interested. Hearing the different themes for the different levels of Mario. So you get the do 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 do, and then you get the do 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 do, those things. So it's pretty cool to have experience and see all of the Easter eggs. Not gonna spoil anything that happened in the movie, but like I said, I could take it or leave it. I just like I said, it just didn't have like super huge impact on me. But with all that being said, I am glad that it's there. Glad there will be sequels. I think we'll get some much better content in the sequel, especially with the end trailer or the end credits scene. It's pretty cool. Has me excited. All that being said, yeah, it's a great time to be a geek and a nerd, and I love talking about this. I'll be putting out some more episodes. I'm put out another episode this week. It's probably gonna be less. It's gonna be less geek related. I have a topic that I wanted to cover, more so like in talking about just a thought, giving my thought on professionalism and the workforce and of the world today. And yeah, so I've seen some things recently online that kind of got me thinking like, maybe I should give my opinion on that. So that should be something coming out later this week. That's a sneak peek teaser preview. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But if you want to hear more from me, go ahead and subscribe. Please rate and review. Share this podcast with your friends, family, anyone you think would be interested in hearing unique point of views on things, and especially geek and comic book stuff. I love talking about that, so a lot of my content will be based on that. It's not all that, but for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that happens. It's stuff that interests me. If you want to talk to me, please reach out. You can find me at Xavion at thexavionfactor.com. I'm on Twitter at PrimeX, that's PR1MEX, and I'm also on TikTok at the Xavion Factor. You can also check out my blog at thexavionfactor.com. I appreciate you all for listening. Thank you, and take it easy. Peace.